birds of prey bait their canvas with his lost soul's carrion brush.
He was with his favorite call girl and his black limousine, doing lines of coke and drinking cold champagne. When it heard the distant rumble of 1,000 bat-like wings, an explosion which caused his ears to pain. His mind was filled with terror as the limo route for 7 by iron talons that grabbed his soul. There were visceral screams and moans and the sound of crushing bones.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Good evening or morning, depending on your time zone. From the Pacific to the Atlantic to you worldwide. Get yourself a cup of Java and find a comfy, easy chair. And get ready for Gary and his guest on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. And now, here's Gary.
Well, here I am. Hey, James, when are you going to get me a golf club?
How many do you want?
I don't know. I need one just to practice my swing. I swear to God that radio station that did these intros for me, that guy must love Johnny Carson, because the way he just lays that out, I feel like I'm Johnny Carson on that.
I know. I feel like I'm supposed to say, "Here's Gary." I'm going to get you a 9 iron. That's what you need.
Now, how about a 3 iron? I don't know. Anyway, Jason, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, I don't blame you if you wouldn't been. But anyway, I got any creepy things you can tell us? Because, I mean, we're just like 2 days away from the magic witch hour.
All right. Well, yeah. There's one specifically that I'm going to get into it. It's in my book in the state of Texas, and you might be familiar with this story. This happened in, or at least it was posted, and I believe on a message board in 1998. Journalist Brian Bethel, who lives in Texas, his newspaper had a night shift, so he got off, around 11 midnight, something like that. And he was heading home, but he swung by a strip mall to pay his cable bill, because in 1998 people still had cable and they still wrote checks. So he stopped and was writing a check. There was a night deposit spot in his in the door, and he was just going to slip it in and then go home. It was pretty well lit there because there was a movie theater, and the marquee was on because the movies were still showing for the evening. And as he was writing the check, he suddenly realized that he wasn't alone. And he looked out his window, and there were two boys standing there. One was about 16, he thought, and one was about 14, and they were wearing hoodies. And he rolled down his window. I mean, the first feeling that he got was a fear. I mean, which is understandable because he's alone in his car. It's dark, late at night, and all of a sudden he realizes he isn't alone. That's kind of scary, but it was a little bit more than that. He just didn't know what it was at the moment. But he rolled his window down enough to where he could talk to the kids, and the kids, he said, talked with him in a manner that was not like a teenager would. And the 16-year-old said something to the effect of, "Mister, would you please drive us to my home? We need to get money for the movie we're going to watch." And he told him what the movie was. And Brian really felt an overwhelming urge to unlock the door. He didn't know why, but he really wanted to unlock the door. And he just happened to look out the window, and the marquee, the movie the kids said that they were going to go see, had started like an hour before. So that threw a red flag up. And then he turned around and looked back at the boy, and the 14-year-old had started moving to the rear of the car. And what popped in his head was the scene from Jurassic Park, where the Australian big game hunter is looking for the velociraptor, and one circles around and comes in at the side while the other distracts him. That's kind of what the feeling he got was. And then he noticed, after the boy again started demanding that they be let in the car, he noticed that the boy's eyes were like a shark's, like a rat's. They were just solid black and gleaming in the colored lights of the movie marquee. And all of a sudden, the fear just hit him hard, and he threw the car in reverse and sped out of there. And when he swung around, he looked in the rearview mirror, and the kids weren't anywhere to be seen. And he said he said that he didn't, there wasn't any place for them to even sprint to in the time that it took him to turn around and head out of there. He posted the story like I said, on a message board. And I interviewed him, I don't know, about 10 or so years ago. And he related the story exactly as he posted it. And he told me that still to this day, or at least to that day, that whenever he still lives in that town, and whenever he drives by that strip mall, he's absolutely terrified that he's going to see those kids again. But there's a black-eyed kid story, the first one that was ever posted online. This is where the whole black-eyed kid thing started.
Well, did you believe his story? Because there's been reports of black-eyed children all over, and most people they just blow it off as fictitious. But I don't know, because there's a whole bunch of stuff. Some of the people I've heard these stories from are very credible people.
Right, and I've talked to people, from all across the United States. I had a one from a town I used to live in. Talked to a woman from Toronto, a nurse from Australia. I mean, these things have been seen all over the world, and the people that I've talked with, they sound, at least they think they're telling me the truth. All right, so they're extremely believable. Brian was extremely believable when he told retold his story to me. He sounded afraid when he was, a little bit nervous when he was talking about it. So I think a lot of these cases are real. I spoke with one gentleman who said that his nephew always terrified him, and his nephew, when he was 2 years old, he'd always do things that would hurt other children and younger children in the family. And one day he caught a bookshelf that this kid had tried to push over on a baby, and he caught the bookshelf and yelled at the toddler, and the toddler's mom, this guy's sister, picked him up, and was comforting the toddler, and the toddler was looking at this guy over his mom's shoulder, and his eyes turned from blue to solid black right in front of him, and the kid was just grinning at him. So, as to what they are, I can only speculate, but the fact that there may be these things walking around among us and we don't even know it is that could be real.
I don't know. James, what do you think? I got a funny feeling they're demons, but that's just me.
Well, in my 30-plus years, I have seen people's eyes turn from the regular to solid black, and it was because they had something in them that was pure evil. And that, I'm going to tell you something. When you see that from about 4 inches eye to eye, it gets your attention, and it looks at you. It looks back at you, and it never forgets you either. I do know one of the theories out there about these black-eyed children that I read today online in a report was they could be aliens, some form of aliens coming down trying to fool us or whatever, or observing or whatever they do. But I know on my travels, I've never come across black-eyed children, but I've seen young adults, and I have seen one child, their eyes turned all black, and it was because something was in them. And that story you just told there, Jason, is a perfect example. When you told that, the first thing coming to my mind was the Damien from The Omen. That's the first vision I got when you mentioned that.
Well, but on the alien line, I told you I talked with a woman from Toronto and about this, and her encounter was she went to her grandson's school. She took her grandson to school, to kindergarten, and when she took him, she made sure he got to his class. And as she was leaving, the bell rang and all the students were in class. The halls were empty, and she checked out at the office and was walking down a hallway, and she saw a kid about 5 or 6, and she started walking toward him, saying, "Hey, you're supposed to be in class." And the kid turned around to look at her, and he had big almond, solid black eyes. And she said she suddenly felt like she was walking through water. Everything was going really slow, and it was really an effort to walk. And the thing just looked at her for a few seconds, or the kid looked at her for a few seconds, and then turned around and kept walking down the hallway and took a right. And when the kid disappeared, she was able to walk normally again. And she, went as fast as she could to the end of the hall and looked down the other hallway, and the kid was gone. And she went back to the office and reported that she'd seen a kid, and there wasn't anybody missing from class. So she didn't know what that was, but she was also pretty certain in her heart that she said, "I really think that was an alien."
Wow. I wonder, have you had reports on shapeshifters? Do you have anything like that in your book?
I've got, there were a couple of werewolf stories, but no one had seen them change shape. So, I mean, were they, dogmen? Were they werewolves? There's, stories of a loup-garou, the French werewolf, and it's, been reported in Quebec and in Louisiana. And that's a shapeshifter that appears as a human, sometimes a beggar on the outskirts of a city, and will lure people, farther, lure people into an unpopulated place and then turn into a wolf. But I didn't do a lot on shapeshifters. I didn't do anything on skinwalkers because, frankly, they give me the willies.
What is the scariest creature you have in your book?
Oh, the scariest creature. The black-eyed kids are pretty terrifying. But in Tennessee, there was a creature called the white howler. There's a story of a farmer back in the mid 1800s. He bought a piece of land outside of town and cleared away some area to build a house, and he was going to build clear away some more area to have some fields. And he and his family moved out there, and at night they would hear what sounded like a woman screaming out in the woods, and he'd go out and yell. It would still scream, and then finally he decided, I'm going to deal with this. He thought it might be a big cat or something, and he grabbed his rifle and went outside and followed the screaming through the woods, and the screaming got harder and more intense, and he saw this white fog ahead of him, and it sounded like the screaming was coming from that area, and he followed it, and he went through the woods, and he got lost, didn't know where he was, and the fog, went fast, and he lost it. And finally, when he followed the scream, long enough, he came back to his house, and he realized then that the screams were coming from the house, and by the time he rushed in, the fog was leaving the inside of his house, and his family had been ripped to shreds.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, see, that's another thing. A lot of people get on, they talk about these cryptic, creatures, but they never talk about anything of people being hurt by them. I mean, but there has been cases, what you just mentioned right there, where it went in and tore the guy's family apart. It lured him out of the house, and then when he was out looking for him, he came back in the house and did what it wanted to do, probably right from the start. Has there been any other cryptics you can think of that been either cannibal or not friendly towards humans?